I should have known something was wrong when Mom insisted I come home for a special family dinner the weekend after my 30th birthday. She'd been suspiciously quiet on my actual birthday. Just a text with some emoji hearts and a voicemail about being too emotional to talk. "We're something nice," she'd said on the phone. "But not too nice. You don't want to seem desperate." Desperate for what? It was supposedly just dinner. I pulled into my childhood home's driveway that Saturday, parking behind my sister Valerie's minivan with its stick-figure family decals. Husband, wife, 3 kids, and a dog. The suburban dream, advertised on the rear window. Through the dining room window, I could see movement. A lot of movement. More than just family dinner movement. My stomach sank. The front door opened before I could knock. Dad stood there in his good polo shirt, the one he wore to golf club dinners, his face a mixture of forced cheer and unmistakable pity. "There's our girl." He pulled me into a hug that lasted 3 seconds too long. "How are you holding up?" "I'm fine. Why wouldn't I be?" "Of course you are. Of course." He patted my shoulder. "Very brave. Your mother's in the kitchen. She wanted everything to be perfect for. Well, you'll see." The house smelled like lasagna and disappointment. I followed him through the hallway, past photos documenting Valerie's picture-perfect life. Wedding, pregnancies, first days of school. The wall of achievement, I'd called it once. Mom hadn't laughed. Surprise! The word hit me like a slap as I entered the dining room. 20 people stood around the table, their faces frozen in expressions of sympathy poorly disguised as celebration. Above them hung a banner. 30 and thriving, it's not too late. Balloons bobbed from every chair, black ones with messages like, maybe next year and love finds everyone eventually. And my personal favorite, at least you have your career. The cake. Oh God, the cake. 3 tiers of fondant humiliation. The bottom layer featured sugar paste cats, so many cats. The middle layer showcased a fondant woman, presumably me, sitting alone on a couch, surrounded by wine bottles and takeout containers. The top layer, the piece de resistance, was decorated with a crying face emoji and the words, "Don't give up hope," in purple icing. What? I couldn't finish the sentence. Mom materialized at my elbow, resplendent in her mother of the bride dress. The one from Valerie's wedding 5 years ago. "Surprise, sweetie." She kissed my cheek, leaving a lipstick mark I knew would be there all night. "We thought, why be sad alone when we can all support you through this difficult milestone?" "What difficult milestone?" "Turning 30 without a husband, of course." She said it like I'd been diagnosed with something terminal. "But don't worry. We're all here for you. And look," she gestured around the room. "We invited plenty of single men." I scanned the crowd. There was Todd from her book club, recently divorced and currently sweating through his shirt. Brian, the pharmacy tech with the extensive action figure collection. And, was that my dentist? "You invited my dentist to my pity party?" "Dr. Schwartz is recently widowed," Mom whispered. "And very established. He's 73. Don't be ageist, dear. Besides, beggars can't be choosers." Valerie swooped in before I could respond, her perfect blonde waves bouncing with each step. "Luna. Happy, well, you know." She squeezed my hand with both of hers, wedding ring cutting into my palm. "Don't worry. Derek has a cousin who just got out of a really toxic situation. He's ready to settle down with someone stable." The toxic situation was prison, Derek called from across the room. But it was white-collar crime, so that's basically like grad school. "See," Valerie beamed. "Options." I looked around the room, really looked. Aunt Patricia clutching her pearls like I might be contagious. Cousin Brendan and his wife whispering by the punch bowl. My high school friends, summoned to witness my public shaming, staring at their phones. And there, by the cake, my mother's best friend Margaret setting up what appeared to be a PowerPoint presentation titled, "It's Never Too Late. Success Stories of Women Who Found Love After 30. "Is that a PowerPoint?" I asked. "Margaret put so much work into it," Mom said. She found stories of women who met their husbands at 31, 32, even 35. Very inspiring. One of them had given up entirely and was living with 4 rescue dogs when love found her at a grocery store. How romantic. Don't take that tone, Luna. We're trying to help. By throwing me a pity party? It's not a pity party. Mom looked genuinely offended. It's a support gathering. Like an intervention, but more festive. An intervention for being single? Well, when you put it like that, it sounds negative. Valerie handed me a glass of wine. "Here. Mom watered it down so you won't seem like you have a drinking problem to the eligible men. I stared at the pale pink liquid. This is insane. What's insane, Mom said, lowering her voice, is that you spent your 20s focused on that silly computer business instead of finding a husband. But don't worry. Valerie's going to give a speech about how she balanced career and family. Very helpful. That silly computer business. The one I'd built from nothing in my studio apartment. The one that had just sold to a major tech company for $8 million after taxes. The one I hadn't told them about because I'd wanted to surprise them with a different announcement. A happy one. The irony was delicious. Everyone. Mom clinked her fork against her glass. Let's get started. Luna's here, so we can begin the presentations. Presentations? Plural? Well, yes. Margaret has her PowerPoint, Valerie prepared a speech, and I put together a video montage of all your friends' weddings to show you what you're working toward. Mom. Oh, and Patricia brought her vision board supplies, so we can all help you manifest a husband. MOM. Don't be negative, dear. Gratitude is very attractive to men. The room settled into their seats, faces alight with the particular joy of people about to watch someone else's train wreck. Mom stood at the head of the table, raising her glass of properly concentrated wine. We're gathered here today to support our dear Luna as she faces this challenging chapter. 30 and single might seem like the end of the world. It doesn't, I muttered. But with our help and a better attitude about makeup and gym memberships, there's still hope. Here. Aunt Patricia called out. My niece didn't meet Harold until she was 31 and had completely given up. Now they have a house in Westchester. Exactly. Mom beamed. Luna, would you like to say something? Maybe share your feelings about this journey. I stood up slowly, looking around the room at these people who claimed to love me, who'd gathered to mourn my singlehood like it was a death in the family, who'd decorated with crying emojis and cat lady stereotypes. Actually, I said, I do have something to share. Mom clapped her hands. Oh, wonderful. Acceptance is the first step. I sold AppSync. Confused silence. My silly computer business, I clarified. I sold it. Last month. That's nice, dear, Mom said. But let's focus on your future. Margaret, do you want to start the PowerPoint? For $8 million. Margaret dropped her laptop. The room went silent. Real silent. Pin drop, breathing audible silent. 8. Dad's voice cracked. Million. After taxes. The deal closed 2 weeks ago. I was waiting for the right moment to tell you. Thought maybe I'd take everyone to dinner somewhere nice. But then you threw me a pity party, so here we are. But, Mom sank into her chair. But you're single. Yep. Single and rich. Weird how those aren't mutually exclusive. $8 million? Valerie's perfect composure cracked. From your app thing? My app thing that helps small businesses manage inventory. Turns out it was worth something after all. I don't understand, Mom said faintly. How are you successful but still alone? Because I spent my 20s building a company instead of hunting for a husband. Because I chose to focus on my goals instead of your timeline. Because being single at 30 isn't actually a tragedy, despite this. I gestured at the crying emoji cake. Memorial service you've thrown for my love life. Todd the Book Club divorce cleared his throat. So, you're rich? Extremely. He straightened his tie. I love independent women. Good for you, Todd. Dr. Schwartz raised his hand. I have a boat. Congratulations. The room erupted. Everyone talking at once, voices climbing over each other. The pity transformed into something else. Greed, certainly, but also confusion. How could poor single Luna be rich single Luna? It didn't compute. Wait. Valerie held up her hands. You've been a millionaire for 2 weeks and you didn't tell us? I've been building to this for 6 years and none of you cared. Mom called it my hobby. Dad asked when I was going to get a real job. You told me I was wasting my pretty years on computers. We were worried about you. Mom protested. You were embarrassed by me. There's a difference. That's not true. I pulled out my phone, scrolling to the family group chat. Last month you sent an article titled The Fertility Cliff. Why 30 Matters. The month before that, it was Single at 30, a modern tragedy. Oh, and my personal favorite from last week. How to help your spinster daughter without hurting her feelings. Those were sent with love. They were sent with judgment. And you know what? I'm done with it. I grabbed my purse, suddenly exhausted by the whole circus. Enjoy the party. Eat the sad cake. Do the vision boards. but do it without me. Luna. Mom stood up. You can't just leave. Watch me. But what about the presentations? Margaret worked so hard. Then Margaret can present to someone who needs it. I'm good. I made it halfway to the door before Valerie caught up. Luna, wait. I'm sorry. We didn't mean, we were just worried. No, you were projecting. You can't imagine being happy without a husband and kids, so you assume I must be miserable. But I'm not. I'm actually pretty fucking fantastic. $8 million, she said softly. I can't even imagine. That's because you never asked about my work. None of you did. Too boring, right? Not as interesting as wedding planning or baby showers. That's not, she stopped. Okay, maybe that's a little true. It's a lot true. So what now? You just cut us off. I considered it. The freedom of walking away from people who only saw my value in terms of my relationship status. But then I looked at her, really looked. Under the perfect hair and rehearsed concern, she seemed genuinely shaken. No, I said finally. But things change. No more pity. No more setups with ex-cons or septuagenarians. No more articles about my biological clock. You treat me like a whole person, not a project. And if we can't, then you'll miss out on knowing a really interesting person who happens to have excellent investment advice. Her eyes lit up. Derek's been wanting to start a business. See, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Sorry. Habit. She twisted her wedding ring. Can I ask you something? Are you really happy? Being alone. I'm not alone. I have friends, colleagues, a life full of people who see me as more than my marital status. I'm just not married. There's a difference. But don't you want? Maybe someday. Maybe not. The point is, it's my choice. My timeline. My life. Back in the dining room, I could hear Mom trying to salvage the party. Something about still doing the vision boards for practice. You really leaving? Valerie asked. Yeah. But hey, save me some cake. The crying emoji part. Seems appropriate. She laughed, actually laughed. You know Mom's going to flip the entire narrative now. Tell everyone she always knew you'd be successful. Probably. And she'll throw another party. A congratulations one. Just as embarrassing. Definitely. With a cake shaped like a $sign. I'd expect nothing less. I hugged her, quick, awkward, but genuine. Then I walked out of my pity party and into the night air that suddenly felt full of possibility. My phone buzzed before I reached my car. Mom, we need to talk about tax shelters. Patricia's husband knows a guy. I laughed, really laughed, for the first time all evening. Of course. From spinster to financial advisor in under 5 minutes. The family pivot. Another text. Also, I'm sorry. Kind of. A little. We should celebrate properly. Dinner at that new place downtown. I sat in my car, considering. The hurt was still there, years of it, layered like sediment. But underneath, maybe possibility. The chance to build something new. Not perfect, but better. Only if I'm paying, I typed back. And no PowerPoints. Deal. Love you, my successful daughter. Still single, though. Nobody's perfect. Face blowing kiss. I drove home to my apartment. My soon-to-be former apartment, since I'd already started looking at houses. Real ones, with home offices and space for the rescue dogs I'd probably get just to lean into the stereotype. The party favors Mom had probably prepared sat unopened in her living room. Self-help books, speed dating flyers, maybe some face masks because tired skin ages you, dear. Tomorrow, she'd probably return them. Or save them for the next single relative to hit a milestone. But tonight, I was 30, single, and richer than anyone at that pity party could imagine. I'd built something from nothing while they'd been planning my theoretical wedding. And honestly, the crying emoji cake was right about one thing. I was definitely crying. From laughing so hard. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't getting mad or getting even. It's getting rich and letting them figure out how wrong they were on their own time. $8 million worth of time, to be exact.